Hello and welcome back to the Villa Filler podcast. I'm here as always, my good friend Dan Wiseman. Dan, Aston Villa 2, Leicester City 4. Anyone would have thought we've been relegated with the reaction. But, before we get into that, mate, how you doing?
Four, mate.
4.
Four.
Yep. It's a bit rough, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
Stunned.
tough, mate. It's crazy. It was nuts, absolutely nuts. Perhaps a bit of not a reality check. I don't think that's right because I don't think we've been going too, doolally with these results. But I think the fact that it came after a January window that many people, rightly or wrongly, I think there's certainly a case to be made that we're a little bit disappointed with, perhaps, that felt that there were issues with the squad that needed to be addressed that weren't. And obviously, we balanced that out in the preview with the need for the club to be realistic and sensible with their spending and everything like that. But for a performance like this, to follow that January window certainly doesn't help that narrative, does it?
No, it doesn't, mate. It's a tricky one. It is a tricky one. And I think, like we've said before, and, we kind of touched on it briefly off air before we started recording, like, it's been pretty ugly. Like some of the wins, it's been tough. They've been games that we've had to really grind out at times to get ourselves over the line. And I think the overwhelming feeling for me today, mate, is just frustration more than anything. And I don't know if it's just because it's like Leicester and it's Brendan Rodgers, and I don't really like Brendan Rodgers. And there was this, he spoke a big game before this, being like, this is a derby game. It's this, it's that. I think he was saying all the things that his players maybe needed to hear, given the form that they're on. They hadn't won a game in 6 heading into this. So naturally, enter Aston Villa. Here's your 3 points. We know that is customary. But what's frustrating about this one, because we could either sit on this call, mate, for like an hour and try and dissect, play by play where it went wrong for Aston Villa. But fundamentally, mistakes were made on an individual basis, and it's not to single anybody out at all. Boubacar Kamara didn't have a brilliant performance, and that's going to happen from time to time if we're being completely fair and honest. We give them 3 goals, and we're now in this situation where I think it's that frustration is compounded. With what you were saying about the transfers and the fact that if we win, we're then 8th and we're like 2 points off top 6, and it's like European football is just there. It's within your grasp. Obviously, until next week, and then you lose, and other teams win, and the table changes. Thus, being the nature of league football, but it's I'm more bothered that it. I'm not. I'm not bothered. I don't know why I'm saying I'm bothered. I'm not. It's annoying that we've lost, but I confirm a couple of mistakes in a game like this over 90 minutes of just like an absolutely shocking performance where, I don't think anyone could leave with their head held high. I'd rather it be like this. This game realistically is like a 0-0 with how it like should have played out given how
Yeah,
both
yeah,
teams. Do you know what I mean? Like, I
yeah,
don't. These kind of things they average themselves out over the season, I think, is what I'm trying to say. And
yeah,
it's just one of them that we just have to firm, really, in my opinion.
yeah, yeah. I just find it really hard to really have too strong an opinion on. I think I'm a bit like you in that sense, mate. Is that like I don't really know how to feel about it. I've said on this podcast, like after the Southampton game, certainly, and probably ones before that, where I felt that like we were getting these wins and it was great, but I never really felt that we were playing very well. And I think, maybe you can look at the Spurs away and United at home in what I think was Emery's first game as maybe exceptions to that rule. But I think part of the, looking at it generally we have been playing ugly, as you say, mate, and we haven't been playing well, but we've come out on winning game, like, you know, with 3 points, and we've been winning games, and that's something that we've heralded this side for, and particularly the manager for, because, you know, he's sort of instilled that winning like mentality in this Villa side, and we were turning performances that used to get us draws and losses into ones that somehow were getting us 3 points, and Unai was like brilliant at that, but that's not, you can't build a foundation on that. And that's
No,
not how that's not how you progress as a team. Ultimately, I'm not saying that Villa got lucky for all of those games, but when, that Southampton game, they had two disallowed goals, and very easily that game could have been 2-1. I mean, the one on Jacob Ramsey was a real talking point. So at the very least, conceivably, they could have got a draw in that game, but Villa won it. And it's not you can't rely on that way to keep winning football matches ultimately. But I do think this win presents some question marks about the squad and the team and how this Villa side is going forward. I think it's a shame for Boo, but honestly, I give him a free pass because he's so good and he's been excellent. I think that's the first time I've come away from a game thinking he didn't play very well today and he made a couple of mistakes. And honestly, he's been near perfect in a Villa side that's been anything but basically since he arrived.
yeah,
And the situation in which he loses the ball when we're trying to play out from the back is frustrating. But it's really weird, actually. I was listening to an interview with Pep earlier on this week, and it was from in his time at Barcelona. And he goes into Barcelona and they're trying to play out from the back in this one La Liga game really early in Pep's reign. I think it's Dani Alves. Dani Alves or someone like that gives the ball away and Barcelona concede a goal, pretty much in the same circumstances that we did. And there's this interview with Dani Alves where he's like, he goes back to the changing room and he's like saying to Pep, I'm so sorry. And he's like, I don't care. I literally don't care. I would rather you do that 10 times and we can see 10 goals, because when you do get it right and when you learn to be confident in those situations, we will score 20, 30 goals and it will, like, that's it, how it balances out. And I think it's frustrating for some, and it's always been a point of discontent at Villa Park when teams, not just under Unai, but Dino and Stevie, when we did it from time to time, try and play out from the back. It's always a bit nervy, but we have to get used to that. And we have to make it a situation which the players feel comfortable to doing it at Villa Park, which, we spoke about it with Olsen and stuff like that. Villa Park can get real nervy really quick. And I'm not saying it was the case today, but we just need to make sure that we recognise that that's part of Unai's foundations. And if we are going to trust him wholeheartedly, as we say we do, then that needs, warts and all, we need to trust Unai Emery. We can't just trust the good bits. Do you know what I mean? Like, when the players are making mistakes and they do get it wrong, trying to play it Unai's way, we need to be there to support them.
I'm going to disagree with this slightly, mate, because Villa Park was awful today, man. Like, there were boos at half time around me. Like,
yeah, that was poor. That was poor.
It's embarrassing. And like, listen, I don't want anybody coming at me in the comments being like 50 quid a ticket, all this stuff. Anybody who knows me knows that I fundamentally, that makes me sick. I hate that. I despise that about modern football. So I'm not getting at anybody who, for that, like, I completely understand that point. But like, you're there to support. That's the one thing. You've paid your money. I understand people are going to feel frustrated, but you have to support. And the boos were just frankly embarrassing, mate. I cringed hearing people boo, because it weren't even that bad. I think Villa did. There was a sort of general lack of awareness and intensity throughout this game. But like, as I say, it happens. We can't expect these guys to, we're running before we're walking again. I think we got a bit giddy, and in these kind of games where you lose and it kind of, nobody wants to concede 4 goals. Like, that's awful, especially at home. It's horrific. But Unai will learn so much about the players in this. And again, I don't mean to sound like a broken record, because I feel like I said this after the Stevenage game when we covered it as well, mate. But you learn way much more in a defeat than you do in a victory about the character, the ability, the desire to win, all of the above, all that. Unai will have a good idea of where he's at. And I think, you look at a few of them players, Luca Dean, obviously coming back from an injury. I don't want to sort of lambast him too much, but it wasn't a great game. And you see the the genuine levels when Moreno comes on, and how much he really did look to sort of attack that final third and get to the byline and get that ball in the box, and he created so many chances when he came on. Ollie Watkins, I thought was brilliant today, and I have to say it because I'm his biggest critic at times. I do adore him, but today, like that sort of 90 minutes, that epitomises everything that I know Ollie Watkins can be and should be on a consistent basis, and he's in a really good patch of form right now. And I wanted to give him the second goal because I mean, from where I was sat in the hole, I did genuinely think it was a shot, but after watching it back, it was 100% across. So I can see why that went down as a Harry Souttar own goal, but that was a fantastic performance from him. And it's like, again, I don't really want to. It's all if buts and maybes in it. Like everyone's piling on Leon, and I know he misses a lot of chances, and it just happens. But like, if that falls to anybody else, like who does better? Because there was again, like I was like, do you know what? If only that had fell to Coutinho, and then 5 minutes later, Coutinho blasts a shot that he had a sort of a gaping goal from almost after a corner, well over the bar, and I'm like, well, okay, well even Coutinho can't do that. So it's difficult. It's difficult. I don't really know what to say, mate. To be honest, I thought.
I mean, yeah, I know exactly how you feel. It's really hard to formulate opinions on this one, isn't it?
It is. It's a tough one because like I don't want to give Leicester a lot of credit because I mean, like they covered the space very well. They were efficient in how they set up. I will give them that, but we've given 3 goals pretty much, and even the Iheanacho goal, which they worked themselves, that comes from again that just distinct lack of awareness that I've already raised, where nobody went out and stopped that cross. They walked out. It was embarrassing. Iheanacho, man. I mean, listen, this is a guy who loves to score against Aston Villa, Kelechi Iheanacho. In 10 appearances against Aston Villa in all competitions, he scored 7 goals and assisted 4. Like, that's crazy. I don't even think he's scored that many goals in his career, just in general. Let alone, we're probably looking at like 25% of his goal contributions coming against Aston Villa. It feels like there's always players like this. There was always that stat of like, I think we were like the team that both Frank Lampard and Steven Gerrard scored the most goals in their Premier League careers against. We always seem to be that team. But it's a tough one to take. And I think, again, another thing that I think makes it worse, mate, is the fact that Everton go and get a win at Arsenal in Sean Dyche's first game, because people are worrying about that, because that's obviously on the horizon as well, isn't it? And it doesn't get easier now because we go away to City and then we're at home to Arsenal and then it's Everton away again. So it's a tough run of games. And listen, I don't like, if anyone was to be like, you're going to come the end of the season, Aston Villa are going to have European football. Obviously, I'd snap your hand for it, but I just don't think it will happen. So, like, it's frustrating, and I understand the sort of argument, especially when it comes to recruitment and all this kind of stuff, being like, we should push, we should be bringing people in, the league's weak, all this kind of stuff. This is a really good opportunity. Chelsea and Liverpool will sort this shit out. Either one of Fulham, Brentford, or Brighton will remain up there as well. I don't think all 3 of them will, but one of them, maybe 2 of them at least have to. It's not going to happen this season. So I think we just need to kind of let that go and just, sort of take the baby steps that we need to take. Again, I feel like we're talking about running before we can even walk.
You're absolutely right. I will flat out be honest with you. I don't want us to get Europe.
Yeah, it's facts,
flat out, because it cripples teams, man. Look what it's done to West Ham. Look what unless you have the bodies, unless you have a squad whereby you can play Thursday, Sunday, in the case of Europa League, Thursday, Sunday. Unless you have basically 2 11s that are happy both competing interchangeably at Premier League and European standards to make that work, it will cripple you. It will look what it's done. Look what it's done to West Ham. All of these clubs that have been fighting in and around there have gotten one foot in that competition and just crippled their league form. There's so many examples for it, both in England and on the continent. You have to be so ready for that step. And it's like, mate, we can't even put out an 11 that we're sure is ready for the Premier League now, let alone, off the back of traveling out to Eastern Europe on a Thursday night. It's like we are, like, honestly, it's a poison chalice in many ways getting European football. And I think it's something we have to be so wary of, because if you bite off more than you can chew, then it will really come back to bite you. And all of a sudden you're in relegation battles like Wolves have been, like West Ham have been, as quick, like, you blink and it's all crumbling around you. David Moyes has gone from the man that was like, West Ham were pushing him for the Champions League positions a couple of seasons ago, if not last season. They were running around fourth, fifth in the table. Now they can't win a game. They
Yeah,
can't win and that's, I'm not saying that's all down to their Europe, like because they got into the Europa League, but when they went so deep as they did last season, getting to the semi-finals, um, it can really have adverse effects on a team, and that's what I worry about. And so I think realistically, this Villa squad might be the amount of windows you get, like 4 windows maybe away from like feeling comfortable in terms of going into the European window. And like if the club are looking to be sensible with their business and not overspend, and say you have the occasional window like we did in January where we don't do business because we don't want to get mug written across our foreheads basically, then all of a
yeah,
sudden that's 5 windows, 6 windows. And this is what I think, and like it's genuinely like getting into Europe is so exciting. And I mean, the last time we did it, mate, like we must have been 9, 10 year olds, maybe 10, 11, something like
mm,
that. And so I don't really remember it, to be honest with you. I remember going to the Rapid Vienna game, the infamous one, and that's about it, I think. And I would love to see Villa in Europe. Having those European nights at Villa Park would be amazing. But we're kidding ourselves if we say that we're ready for it. And if we've got a manager that definitely can be, and if there's anyone that can handle, especially the Europa League, alongside a league form, and we were talking about cup runs and stuff like that, it's Unai. But we're a long way away from that. We're a long,
yeah,
and this game showed it today. And I think it's interesting. There were positives that came out of it. With I thought Moreno came on and did well, but obviously he shoots himself in the foot with the mistake for the Dennis Pratt goal. I thought John Duran came on and gave a good account of himself, a decent cameo. And mate, look, I'm not saying that we do this, but it is infuriating when you see Leon Bailey spurn chances. I love Leon Bailey. I've wanted him to do well for so long. We both have, but we've both, like similar to Ollie, we've both been infuriated when he's missed chances. I would much rather see John Duran missing chances than Leon Bailey, because at least I
yeah.
see. At least do you know what I mean? Like I'm not saying but like how long do you give this now? And it's like I look at Duran and I think there's more of an Unai Emery striker in there than Leon Bailey. I'm not sure there's a striker in Leon Bailey, to be honest with you, because I don't think he can finish consistently enough to warrant playing in that
Yeah.
position. And when it's like I just look at it and it's like I'd rather have John Duran up there putting himself about and learning and getting that game time and missing chances than I would Leon Bailey, because there's no excuse for Leon to do that, whereas there is with John Duran. Like he's adjusting to this league, and I think it's early doors, but I just look at it and I think these are the questions you've got to ask with the squad. But it's similar to Coutinho, whereby I saw a lot of people on Twitter and stuff saying that Coutinho was a lot better today, really encouraging from Coutinho. It's depressing if we've fallen that low. It is.
He's
It
a young
is.
prospect. He
That's
might
what I mean.
make
It's
it.
like
He's from the
we're singing him.
academy.
I tweeted it. I was like, every week, I think it's this week. This is when it's coming. But honestly, if we're looking at performance, as you say, when he spurns that chance, mate, from 20 yards, just on the edge of the box, um, if we're looking at that, like he strung a few passes together, came on, played with a bit of energy, as like, oh my God, that was great from Felipe. No, it's not. That's not what we
It's the
bought
bare
him for. And
minimum.
it's like, it is, mate. It is. And that's what I'm saying. It's just like, there is a big reset needed. And whether that coincides with European football, I think that's a long way away.
I think you're right, mate. I think you're right. Duran's an interesting one because before now, there's like the part of me that's like, a new player, shiny new toy. Let's play with the new toy. Let's see what he's about. But obviously, the sort of the realist in me is like, obviously, we're not going to see Duran for a while. Then you've got Emery saying, yeah, he's really impressed in training, and like, this kid's quite good. So then you're like, oh, okay, maybe he'll get sort of 5 minutes. We'll see how the game goes. And as you say, man, I'm sitting there watching Bailey having the disaster class he's having, and I'm going, why not? What have we got to lose? He's a
That's what I'm
big
saying.
guy. He can hold
Hmm.
his own. This is this is a man that we're talking about. He's like we're talking about him as if he's a child. I guess in age maybe he's closer, but in terms of physicality and I mean he got a very fast welcome to the Premier League by Soyuncu. But after that, I felt he really sort of held his own, and it's like I look at people. I can already say people in the comments if they've even made it this far, they're gonna think I'm fucking crazy for saying this, right? But first season up, Man City away. Keenan Davis led the line. Absolutely, I think he came off the bench, or I can't remember if he started or whatever. But Keenan Davis against, I want to say it was Diaz, but it was definitely Fernandinho. Like caused legitimate concerns for the Manchester City backline. And I look at Man City in the form that they're in now, and they've loaned the best fullback in the world, in my opinion, out to Bayern Munich. And John Stones is injured, and they're generally quite unsettled at the back at the moment, anyway. And you know, maybe I'm gaslighting myself a little bit, but I genuinely think John Duran is a player to play in this game. I think Man City struggle against really physical opponents, people who make it really tough. That against the a Burnley or whoever who are going to just sit back and just low block and sort of try and stop them crosses and all that kind of stuff. That we've seen in the past. Man City generally find a way, but I think we saw it in the fixture of Villa Park earlier on in the season. The moment you start playing as dirty as they do, which they do, don't get it twisted, they're a very dirty side. All of a sudden, that like the levels they start to even themselves out a bit, and that a huge array of technical ability that they have, which completely outshines anything that Aston Villa could ever hope or dream of, that are playing and on the bench. All of a sudden, you start to make that level, and that's where you can get something from this kind of game. So hopefully John can come in and really sort of rock their world. And it's not very often it's mad that I'm even saying this because this is someone who we've plucked out of Major League Soccer. So, but I don't know, maybe it's something that can happen. But I feel like we should probably end the podcast, mate, because I'm getting a bit depressed just thinking about it.
Mate, it's
Any
tough.
closing
It is tough.
thoughts?
No, look, I think we have to. All I'll say is that we have to take the rough with this move, not get too high, not get too low. And there's a conceivable chance now when you look at these next three games that we have in Man City, Arsenal, and Everton, especially Everton away, where we could lose those games conceivably. And that's a genuine possibility. And we just have to try and stay level-headed. Like I implore us, and I know that maybe you and I have not done a great job of that, but we have to try and keep a level head and look at that. It's a month today, Palace at home, and that's the game. We really have to go and put a marker in the ground there. And if we get a point out of these next three games, I think I'd be happy with that, honestly. But yeah, we just have to try and stay level headed with this, mate.
I think we get three. I genuinely think we take a point from each game, and I would be over the moon with that. But maybe that's me being the optimist that I am. Maybe it's not. You guys should let us know what you think in the comment section down below. Don't forget, we're giving away a shirt soon. There'll be more details on that, or two shirts. TikTok, Instagram, Spotify, Apple. You guys know the job by now. Make sure you're following, liking, engaging. We appreciate all the support from you guys. And hit subscribe if you're new. We're on 13K now. 13,000.
Yes, wild.
Guys. So that means a lot. Actually, if anyone has made it this far, which they probably haven't, I should probably mention this at the start. 45% of people, mate, who watch our podcasts on YouTube aren't subscribed. That's insane. We'd be on like 27K if you guys are subscribed. So if you're watching, if you're enjoying, if you're a repeat viewer, you come back and all this kind of stuff. We'd appreciate if you'd subscribe, just because I mean the views are what matter, but the subs are nice too. It's more of a vanity thing, I guess. But subscribe, because then you'll never miss it as well. You'll never miss it. Whenever we upload a video, a short, a podcast, whatever. So yeah, like, comment, subscribe, and up the Villa.